Wow, we all bow to that. It was fantastic. Like all good things, whenever we want to start with a prayer and making sure that we are bringing in all the positive energy. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Raj. I am also, like Jimmy, a volunteer with RDTS, and on behalf of the entire RDTS, welcome you. I know it's a cold evening. A lot of you came from far-off places, so appreciate your time. We have a packed agenda today, and more than that, the reason why we wanted to bring all of you was that there is something more important than each one of us. There's something more important in this Nalanda tradition, and right in front of you there are these speakers who actually experience pieces of Doeguling, pieces of Buddhism, pieces of the Nalanda tradition that they will want to share with you. Let's open this with an introduction by Tsewang, who has been absolutely the spirit behind garnering all of us together into the spirit of RDTS and worked tirelessly on a very thankless job, but we all know your efforts are going to bring some fantastic results. So Tsewang La, please.
Thanks, Raj. Welcome, everyone. I'll try to get to the points because, as Raj said, it's going to be a packed agenda. It's going to be a meaningful, fun-filled agenda, too. So you've heard the word Nalanda thrown out a lot. For the benefit of my non-Tibetan friends, maybe I share with you a little bit what is the Nalanda tradition and what is it. And Nalanda University is arguably the oldest university in the world. It started in India around 580. And then it went to Tibet around like 6th, 7th century. And then prior to that, Tibet was a warring chieftains, like a warring type of race. The tradition came to Tibet, transformed Tibet completely from a warring race into a race that became very peaceful, where the energy was focused not on material development, but on understanding the human mind and the consciousness. And then in 59, with China's occupation, it went back to India. So exactly what is the Nalanda tradition? I mean, it's a vast subject, and I don't want to get into the details. But what impresses me most about this tradition is the focus on ethics as the foundation of everything, and motivation based on compassion, and using reason and logic to get to that compassion. I mean, this is not the compassion not only the compassion that we normally talk about, compassion to your children or to your parents, which kind of comes naturally biologically, but using reason and logic to expand your compassion beyond your biological or your friends and family to even to your so-called enemies. This is a technique that teaches you how to empathize, put yourself in other person's shoes. It is incredibly deep. They've developed some really deep insight into understanding the human consciousness and the mind. And many of the current research being done on mindfulness and that is being done on Tibetan monks who are the practitioners of the Nalanda tradition. I've shared with you a quote from Dan Goldman, who's who came out with the word emotional intelligence. He's studied with a lot of these Tibetan masters in the Nalanda tradition, and in the quote, when I met with him, I asked him, like, could you share with your quote? And he said, I mean, it's the settlements, I mean, this is the place which really is preserving the Nalanda tradition and this vast knowledge. And I mean, if you talk about there's about 6 million Tibetans. I mean, if you say there's Tibetans who hold the Nalanda tradition, there's 6 million, but there's only about 150 or 200 that's outside of Tibet. And as you know, in Tibet, people can practice these traditions freely. So it comes to about the 150, 200,000 in exile. And within those, in the exile community, the place which there's 3 big universities that existed in Tibet. One's called it's called Ganden, Drebung, and Sera. And Ganden and Drebung is located in Doeguling. And it's about, this place is in South India, which I shared with you the maps to speed up things while Geshe-la was reciting. I just went through, so you got a chance to see it's in southern India. There's about 4,000 acres, population is about 16,000. 8,000 are monastic, and 8,000 are this thing. So what Dan said is, I mean, this is a place that it really has this treasure that teaches you how to, taking out the religious context, but has the techniques to teach you how to transform your mind. I'm very grateful that a few of my colleagues at work are here, and just maybe to impress upon my Tibetan colleagues that this Nalanda tradition, I mean, taking out the thing, these techniques are now being applied in the corporate world. And in our bank, a few of my colleagues will know that some of these techniques on generating compassion, and these techniques are being really being thing, and in the healthcare field. So the key point is I wanted to share with you is this uniqueness of the tradition and how the Tibetans are becoming the key custodians of it. And within the Tibetan community, it is Doeguling Mongot, which is really the home base of that tradition. Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, about 4 years ago when I visited Doeguling, when I was a little kid, I spent a lot of time in Doeguling, so I was familiar. So when I went back to attend some teachings, many of the community leaders approached me and they said, "Here, I mean, there's infrastructure problem, health issues, thing." And what I shared with them, I said, rather than sharing with the world a list of problems that Doeguling faces and trying to compete with other poor areas of the world, let's talk about the value of Doeguling and the unique assets of Doeguling, and let's develop a vision for Doeguling and inspire people to realize that vision. And in the process of trying to realize the vision, we'll be able to tackle all these issues. So that's what we did. And so our vision is to make Doeguling the primary place to study the Nalanda tradition and Tibetan culture, not only now, but for future generations. It's already the place to study. Not many people are aware of it, but now the goal is to build infrastructure, build the economic model, so that'll be sustainable for future generations. Yeah. So we created an organization structure. It was going to be bottoms up, so all the decision making will be made by the community. We put together the International Advisory Board where Raj, he was a partner at a large consulting company, A.T. Kearney, and he's very familiar with business, and we've been friends for over a decade plus. Joe Wood is also on the advisory board. He used to be the former head of the World Bank in South Asia, set up the India office. And then and Chimi, and then we have a few people couldn't make it, but we had an advisory board really comprised of accomplished individuals in the finance sector, in the academic sector. Bob Thurman, who's helped provide this house rent for free, is also serving on the advisory board too. So but I mean, we're on the advisory, but again, it's really the purpose is to make it a bottoms-up effort and the decision-making thing. So we pitched this vision to the state government, to the Karnataka state government. I went there about 4 years with the community leader. We shared with them the vision. The state government's motto, Karnataka, is one state, many worlds. So we said it fit into that. And through this effort and through the connections that we had in the Indian government, we were able to get $500,000 to repair the main road. We had one graduate from Stanford who spent a year putting together a detailed assessment report. We've raised over $30,000 to hire 3 full-time staff, and then we developed 3 committees. And colleagues of mine will get into details on some of the strategies on how to on the steps that we are taking to revitalize the place. So these are an audience with His Holiness. This is the first the Secretary of Tourism. We met with him, and his support was essential in helping us get funding for the road. So, yep. So anyway, again, I want to just share with you just a little bit about the tradition, the history. Folks will get into the details, and then I would like to thank the Tibet Fund, who's been helping support a lot of the committees that colleagues of mine will talk about. Tibet House, Mongut Kidu. Many of the Tibetans living coming here, attending this event, are former residents from Doeguling. So if you want to know more about what is life living in Doeguling, I mean, the people sitting next to you are the perfect people to get a really insight into the life with the community. Nalanda Institute, I mean, they've been led by Joe, Lizo, and Jerry. Have been. I mean, unfortunately, they couldn't make it. Joe's he has an MDA from Harvard, I believe, and a PhD from Columbia. A big practitioner of the Nalanda tradition, an expert, and Jerry, his wife Jerry, we went together in India. Have been very supportive of this event, and these are a few of the donors. And if you're inspired to help further, Nav is here. He can share with you. Feel free to reach out to him if there's any support you want to provide. Yep. But thank you.